7 bone-chilling true scary stories that haunt you at 3 a.m. forever. It was 3 in the morning. The witching hour. When shadows pulse with secrets and reality warps into the unimaginable. A shiver ran down your spine, just thinking about the dark corners of your home. Those places where the light doesn't reach and the air feels thicker. Stories of the inexplicable lurk in every whispered rumor. Like the chilling tale of Lucy Clark, who vanished on a foggy night, leaving behind an empty swing swaying as if moving on its own. They say, on stormy nights, you can still hear her laughter, a laughter that twists into a scream if you dare listen too closely. And then there's the mystery of Old Man Keller, the town's recluse. No one ventured near his crumbling house, draped in shadows and covered with ivy like a cloak. The townsfolk swore they saw flickering lights inside, hues dancing like spirits. What caused those lights? Was old Keller a mad scientist conducting bizarre experiments? Or was he hiding something far worse? Rumor had it he made a pact with dark forces, trading his soul for secrets that should never be known. And sometimes, late at night, you could hear him whispering to the darkness, begging for mercy in a voice that curdled blood. Tension hung thick in the air, electrifying like the storm before the lightning strikes. Imagine the terrified faces of kids huddling in a treehouse, telling tales of the woman in white who roamed the fields. This ghost was said to be searching for her lost child, her cry echoing through the night, a mournful cry that sent chills through the bravest of souls. Some brave enough to chase the sound claimed they saw her, a blur of white drifting, begging for help. Others just ran, hearts pounding like drumbeats, convinced they'd met their end that night. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the chilling tales don't stop there. Picture this. A town wrapped in winter's grip, where footprints appeared overnight in freshly fallen snow, leading nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Those who followed them reported strange sounds, whispers that wrapped around like icy fingers, promising knowledge but delivering terror. Each footstep took on a life of its own, as if beckoning you deeper into an abyss from which you could not escape. What were they trying to reveal? And who or what was leaving them behind? With each twisted story threaded through the fabric of night, a single question buzzed in the air like a hornet's sting. What darkness hid behind the ordinary? What reality bled into our world? As night deepened, and the tales repeated through quivering lips, the truth simmered just below the surface, a truth you might wish you never unearthed. Suddenly, a cold breeze rustled through the trees outside, sending leaves skittering across the ground like whispers of lost souls. The darkness pressed in, and with it came the weight of what had yet to be told. As if summoned by the night's chill, another story emerged, a tale that had haunted the town for generations, buried beneath layers of fear and denial. Meet Sarah Jenkins, a vibrant high school girl whose laughter filled hallways and whose dreams seemed unending. That is, until one fateful night when she drove home after a late basketball game. The roads were slick with rain, and the gray clouds loomed like a shroud overhead. It was here, at a treacherous curve, that shadows danced and swirled just beyond the visibility of her headlights. Sarah's car skidded, toppled over, and nosedived down a steep embankment. The echo of crunching metal mixed with her desperate screams. The morning light revealed only wreckage, the twisted metal cradling nothing but silence. Search parties combed the area for days, but Sarah was never found. Locals began to whisper about the stretch of road known as the Devil's Curve. They swore they heard her sobs if they dared to drive too close on stormy nights. Many claimed to see a fleeting figure, a girl in a muddy jersey standing at the edge, staring into the abyss. Those who had the courage to stop sometimes experienced car trouble. Engines would fail, lights would flicker, and an icy grip would clutch their chests, compelling them to flee. or risk never leaving. But one night, a doubtful young man named Ben, armed with nothing but bravado and a reckless spirit, decided to test the truth. With friends piled in the back seat, Ben drove to the cursed curve, belching laughter to drown out their growing unease. As they settled into an eerie silence, he turned off the engine, and the sudden quiet cocooned them as they laughed off the tension. Thick fog rolled in, swallowing the world outside. On cue, a flicker of light shimmered in the distance. "Is it just a car?" Ben scoffed. Yet the light remained still, casting a strange glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. They stepped out to investigate, a foolish bravado narrowly masking the growing dread. Up ahead, they could see her, a shadowy figure, her jersey clinging to her like a wet cloak. Heart racing, Ben shouted, "Hey, are you okay?" But instead of a response, the apparition stilled, turning slowly towards them. A jolt of fear pinched Ben's heart as he caught a glimpse of her face, a twisted mask of despair and longing. The air crackled with unease as she raised an arm, pointing toward the abyss, and then vanished. "Did you see that?" a friend gasped, panic flaring like a wildfire. "We should go back." But Ben felt the pull of curiosity and refused to leave. What truth lay beyond that curve? What horror did Sarah hold? Pushing deeper despite his friend's desperate pleas, he stumbled toward the edge. With each step, he could hear the whisper like a siren song. Then, the ground shifted beneath him, a cracking sound resonating like thunder. The earth trembled, and he felt himself falling, plunging into darkness, toward a truth too dreadful to confront. As Ben careened into the unknown, the whispers crescendoed, enveloping him. What awaited him below, in the depths of oblivion? Will he unravel the mystery or become another ghost tethered to the devil's curve? The true horror was just beginning. Ben's body tumbled through an abyss of darkness. The screams of his friends fell away, swallowed by the suffocating void. His heart pounded, a frantic metronome ticking down to an unknown fate. Just as he braced for impact, what would come next? The ground stopped. He landed on something soft but damp, a ground that pulsed like it was alive. As he glanced around, panic twisted inside his chest. The air was thick, and a chill raced down his spine. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, swirling like smoke. "Hello?" he called out, his voice cracking. No reply came, just an echo that bounced back, mocking him. Was he truly alone down here? Straining to see his surroundings, he noticed a faint glow ahead, a sickly light that seeped through the cracks of the murky walls surrounding him. An invisible hand seemed to beckon him closer, the whispers flaring into a frenzy. It was as if the darkness itself had a pulse, alive and watching. "Ben!" The shout was a distorted cry echoing from somewhere deep within the hollow. It was Mark, his friend. Anxiety washed over him. They had to regroup, but the silence was suffocating, weighing heavily on his shoulders. Determined, he marched toward the eerie glow. Shadowy figures flickered in and out, their features intangible yet familiar. Faces of those who had vanished, drained of color, echoing with unfulfilled desires. Was this a glimpse of what awaited him? The glow intensified as he drew near. He stumbled forward, and as he turned a final corner, he gasped. There, suspended in the air, hung a chalky, tattered jersey. It was Sarah's, her name stitched in bold, faded letters. His pulse quickened. She was trapped here between realms, a fragment of pain held hostage by the very curve that claimed her life. Ben felt a shiver crest over him. This was not just a simple accident. This was a warning, a memory entwined with the wretched remains of lives lost. A weight bore down on him, wrapping around his lungs, squeezing tight. "I can't help her," the whisper slithered through the air, an invitation wrapped in dread. For a spinning moment, Ben stood at a crossroads. A chance to save Sarah and, perhaps, free himself. Or turn back, return to that darkness above, and forsake the truth. But what did it even mean to help a ghost? The choice teetered on the edge like a precarious scale, and the weight of hesitation gripped him. "No!" Mark's voice broke through the thickening air, his form suddenly materializing behind him, fear etched into every line of his face. "You can't trust it. This place, it's wrong." But before Ben could reply, the shadows flickered wildly, the air humming with a furious energy. Those trapped souls swelled around him as if sensing his indecision. He could feel their pain wash over him, an urgent tide dragging him deeper into their tragedy. The air thickened with memories, a deafening cacophony of anguish. Ben's heart raced. A choice had to be made. The jersey danced in the glow, a siren call, promising revelation and liberation. But behind him, Mark's terrified gaze held a truth of its own, a truth he desperately needed to recognize. Which path would he follow, the light into salvation or the darkness into oblivion? With instinct screaming at him, Ben stepped forward, reaching for the jersey. As his fingers brushed the fabric, a violent rush swept through him. The world around him spun, and with it came a sickening clarity. Reality shattered, vivid images bleeding into one another, forming a horrific montage of the past. Suddenly, he heard Sarah's voice among them, and it filled him with dread. "Ben," she whimpered. "Don't let them take you to." The ground trembled violently beneath him, and he realized the truth was worse than he could ever imagine. What was the real cost of uncovering what had happened at the Devil's Curve? As the whispers crescendoed into a roar, Ben understood. The answer could cost him everything. Would he lose himself forever in the darkness, or could he break the cycle? The horror was about to reveal its true form. Ben's world spun around him. Flames licked at the edges of his consciousness as fragmented memories seized him like a vice grip. In flashes, he saw Sarah's smile, so vibrant and full of life, slowly blurring into the horror she defaced. Ghostly figures hovered nearby, their eyes hollow, pleading for release, or perhaps vengeance. They weren't just spectators. They were echoes of anguish tethered to this damned place. "Ben." Mark's voice intensified, cracking like dry wood. "We don't belong here." Ben's heart sank as the ground beneath him warped. The pulsing earth radiated waves of despair, each tremor a reminder of sacrifices made. Sarah's jersey flailed in midair like a desperate cry. He stretched his arm, entranced, but each inch felt like wading through molasses. "Look away. You have to." Mark's desperation wrestled with the overwhelming grip of Ben's focus on the haunting light. The shadows seemed alive, swirling around him, growing impatient. "Help her." Came that seductive whisper again, now layered with other voices, all pleading, all tormenting. "Help us stop," Ben shouted, shaking his head violently. The cacophony of voices swirled around him, crashing against him, attempting to break his resolve. The images before him morphed, revealing a tragic scene, a car wreck against the backdrop of that treacherous curve. There was Sarah, lost and terrified, her eyes reflecting fear and finality. "No, I won't let this happen." He couldn't let the darkness claim her again. "I can't leave her," Ben cried, torn between the pulsing light of the jersey and the frantic plea of his friend. In that moment, clarity struck like a lightning bolt. Maybe this darkness could unwield secrets worth a fight. If he could save her, perhaps he'd save himself and Mark. Gathering every ounce of strength, Ben jerked away from the jersey and stumbled back, pulling Mark with him. "We need to find another way." The shadows roared in defiance, slithering closer, dark tendrils reaching for them, curling around their ankles. The air crackled with energy, electrifying yet deadly. It was a desperate hunger that permeated the very essence of this place. "You can't run from the truth." The voices surged like a tidal wave, stinging his skin. "We need to leave," Ben shouted. He could barely hear Mark's frantic reply over the rising pitch of distressed souls, a cacophony of sorrow and rage that bore down on them. But as they turned back, a chilling barrier of shadows erupted before them, a solid wall of grief. "You cannot escape," it roared, the darkness solidifying into figures, familiar yet grotesque, their faces woven with anguish. Ben pushed against the despair coiling around him, his breath shallow. He thought of Sarah, of who she had been, and what they all stood to lose. "I won't let you take us." "Together," Mark shouted, locking his eyes onto Ben's. "We can fight this." With determination forged in fear, Ben clenched Mark's hand. feeling the warmth of his friend's pulse against the cold grasp of despair. They charged through the swirling shadows together. Each step echoed with desperation, each heartbeat a testament to their unity. The shadows undulated around them, but the bond they shared burned brighter, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. Suddenly, the cacophony stuttered, faltering as if confused by their solidarity. In that fleeting moment, Ben felt the weight of the lost soul's shift, and for the first time, a flicker of hope ignited. The luminous glow from Sarah's jersey brightened in the chaos. Was this the salvation they sought, or merely a trick of the dreary abyss? As the dark beings began to dissipate in the light, the way ahead revealed itself, a shimmering path emerging from between the remnants of despair. "Run!" Mark shouted, his voice filled with urgency, propelling them forward. With every ounce of strength, Ben propelled himself into the light. He could feel the shadows clawing at his back, pulling him closer to the brink. What awaited him ahead was uncertain. Freedom, redemption, or perhaps something far more malevolent. The path shimmered with potential, but uncertainty gnawed at him like hunger. Would they escape the curse of the devil's curve, or were they destined to join the shadows that whispered incessantly? The darkness wouldn't rest until it claimed another soul. The moment they crossed the threshold into the light, Ben felt a rush of air fill his lungs. The shadows rushed at them, screeching in fury, but their grip faltered as if the brightness had scorched their very essence. "Go, go!" Mark yelled, his voice steady, urging Ben to keep running. Together, they pushed through the ethereal glow, feeling the warmth wrap around them like a protective blanket. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating coldness of the shadows they were fleeing. Ben's heart pounded with adrenaline, but the thuds reverberated in his ears as terror clawed at him. Were they free, or just entering a different nightmare? The path beneath their feet shimmered, pulsating as if the ground itself was alive and aware of their desperate flight. "What is this place?" Mark panted beside him. Shadows still threatened them like gusts of wind, snatching at their clothes, whispering darker thoughts that slithered into their minds. "I don't know," Ben replied, glancing behind them, fear etched on his face. The shadows had not receded. They writhed against the boundary of light, seeking an opening to trap them once more. The cries of lost souls echoed, a mournful symphony of grief that sent shivers down his spine. They continued down the shimmering path, urgency fueling each step. The light ahead flickered, revealing something distinct: a distant house, its silhouette cutting against the sky like a specter. Dark clouds roiled above, churning ominously, as if the very heavens conspired against them. "Do you see that?" Mark pointed, squinting at the house. "I'd rather take my chances with a haunted house than those shadows." Ben shot back, dread growing in his chest. The memories of Sarah and the others flitted through his mind, ghosts tethered to that cursed curve. As they neared the house, the front door creaked eerily open. A gust of wind billowed through, rustling leaves, and an ominous breeze whispered secrets that sent tremors down Ben's spine. What awaited them inside remained hidden like a secret buried deep, waiting to be unearthed. "Should we?" Mark hesitated, glancing back at the swirling doom. The shadows shrieked louder, their frustration palpable, clawing at the edges of light. "We have to. There's nowhere else to go," Ben urged, fear and determination colliding within him. He took a step forward, nerves tingling as he stepped across the threshold. The room inside was dim, lit only by flickering candles that danced wildly, casting long, twisted shadows. Every surface was cloaked in dust, remnants of history locked away. An old mirror hung on the wall, its surface warped, reflecting not just their images but echoes of lives once lived within those walls. Ben felt compelled to approach it, a magnetic pull drawing him closer. As he stared into its depths, he didn't just see himself but flashes of Sarah, of laughter, of tragic goodbyes. "What is this?" he breathed, entranced. "Ben, don't!" Mark shouted, the urgency rising in his voice. He grabbed Ben's arm, pulling him back just as a pulse of energy surged from the glass. Vivid, chaotic images of the past erupted, swirling around them like a storm. "Make it stop!" Ben clawed at the air, his heart racing as emotions washed over him. Each vision sparked memories, regrets, and unresolved pain. Time in that moment seemed fluid, bending around them. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the air. It wasn't from the mirror but somewhere within the house. A sound steeped in pure terror. It echoed through the halls, wrapping around their hearts like a vice. What was that? Mark's voice trembled, eyes wide with fear. I don't know, but we can't stay here. Ben shouted, urgency taking over as he tore away from the mirror's hold and dashed deeper into the house. Mark close behind him. Every creak of the old wooden floor, every gust of wind from the cracked windows felt like the breath of someone waiting for their chance to claim them. They moved quickly, adrenaline surging, but the shadows outside were creeping ever closer, licking at the edges of the door like hungry wolves. What horrors lay within these haunted walls? Could the house hold the key to escape, or would it entrap them further into the darkness? The shadows would not be deterred for long. Could they find their way out before the darkness consumed them entirely? Ben and Mark plunged further into the dim expanse of the house, breathless and frantic. The walls loomed around them, thick with an eerie atmosphere that clung like damp fog. Each step echoed, a reminder that they were not alone, that the very space they traversed held secrets shrouded in pain and darkness. What if it's a trap? Mark murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Fear laced every word, and Ben could feel it hanging in the air like a noose. We can't think like that, Ben snapped, irritation bleeding into his anxiety. But deep down, doubt gnawed at him. What if they were stepping into a fate worse than the shadows? A door creaked open at the far end of the hallway, revealing a room bathed in an unsettling crimson glow. The walls buzzed with an unnatural energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. Beneath the doorframe, shadows coiled, flickering in and out like agitated worms. Stay close, Ben commanded, though his own voice rippled with uncertainty. Together, they moved toward the door, each step heavier than the last. As they entered the room, the atmosphere thickened. A table sat at the center, cluttered with old newspapers and broken trinkets, remnants of lives extinguished long ago. Echoes of laughter turned to whispers of despair. Yet, the air crackled with anticipation, as if the house itself waited to unleash its secrets. There is something here, Mark said, squinting at a newspaper. He plucked it up. Look at this. What does it say? Ben asked, peering over Mark's shoulder. Mark's eyes widened as he read aloud. The legend of the House of Shadows claims that those who enter will relive their darkest memories. His voice trembled, disbelief reflecting in his gaze. Memories? What does that even mean? Ben felt a sinking sensation as images of Sarah flickered in and out of his mind, haunting him like a broken record. As if summoned by his thoughts, a figure appeared at the edge of the room, a young woman, disheveled and desperate, her eyes wide with terror. Help me, she gasped, flickering in and out of focus, like a faulty projection. They're coming. You can't let them take you. Who? Take us where? Ben's heart raced, fear gripping him. He reached for her, but her image distorted, her voice a whimper. Suddenly, the shadows inched forward, swirling with purpose, and Ben felt a cold shiver trickle down his spine. The woman's image fractured, each piece showing a slice of her pain, the torment, the anguish that hung in the air. They won't stop until you're one of them. Run, she screamed, her voice fading into a wail as the shadows merged into one dark mass. Ben, let us go, Mark shouted, pulling at Ben's arm, urgency flooding through him. They bolted from the room, hearts hammering in their chests, crashing down the hallway as the shadows surged behind, loud and relentless. Where do we go? Mark gasped, darting left and right, looking for an escape. I don't know. We need to find a way out. Fast, Ben shouted, panic rising. Each turn they took seemed to lead deeper into the labyrinth of despair. Doors slammed on their own, windows rattled threateningly, as if mocking their flight. As they stumbled upon a staircase spiraling down into the darkness below, a flicker of hesitation crossed Ben's mind. What if we go deeper? What if it's even worse down there? We don't have a choice, Mark insisted, already grabbing at the railing and moving downward. Just when they thought they might find a way out, an echo cut through the chaos, an echo that rippled through Ben's core, pulling at memories buried deep. Then a voice called, soft, familiar. Sarah? Ben stopped dead in his tracks, looking wildly around. Ben, help me, the voice pleaded, filled with palpable dread, a note of desperation that sliced through his heart. But before he could respond, darkness engulfed them. Was it her? Or was it yet another trick from the house's haunted depths? The shadows were close, hot on their heels. The very walls seemed to close in with their remorseful whispers, urging them to succumb. Were they trapped in a nightmare of their own making, or could they seize control and blaze a path through the darkness? The deeper they stepped into the unknown, the more questions loomed like shadows, and they were running out of time. What awaited them below could either tear them apart or reveal a way back to the light. But with every heartbeat, the darkness was relentless. As they descended the staircase, Ben's breath quickened with every step, merging fear with the thickening darkness that clutched at their ankles. Cold air wrapped around them, a chilling reminder that life once existed in these depths, though now it felt barren, lifeless. Did you hear that? Mark whispered suddenly, halting on a lower step. Ben strained to listen. There was a faint whispering, a chaotic blend of voices merging and diverging like a turbulent stream. I don't hear anything. We have to keep moving. He pushed down a surge of panic. Each second spent lingering felt like an eternity. But Mark wouldn't budge. It sounds like people, like they're talking. With a sharp pang in his chest, Ben stepped back to him. What if they're trapped? What if they need our help? Mark's eyes darted, uncertainty flashing across his face. Or what if they're luring us in? Don't you remember what the woman said? A dim light flickered further below, urging them forward, a beckoning promise of hope tangled with dread. Compelled by instinct and the urgency surging through his veins, Ben broke into a run. Come on. They reached the bottom of the stairs, emerging into a vast, dimly lit cavern. Piles of debris were strewn about, remnants of once vibrant furnishings, now nothing more than dust-covered memories. Shadows danced along the walls, flickering like candles on the verge of extinguishing. No way back now, Mark said, his voice quivering. We need to figure this out. Ahead, an archway led into another chamber. The whispers swelled, pulling at their resolve. Hello? Ben called, disbelief cloaking his boldness. Is anyone there? From the shadows a figure emerged. A man, gaunt and sunken, stared back, his eyes hollow, glistening with an eerie luminescence. Help me please, his voice was a haunting echo, as if dredged from the bottom of despair. Ben felt a chill curl around his heart. What happened to you? The man chuckled, a sound devoid of joy. You have no idea what this place can do. It feeds off your fears, your regrets. He leaned closer, the shadows wrapping around him. You cannot escape it. What do you mean? Mark asked, his voice cracking. How do we get out? Only those who confront their deepest pain can hope to leave, the man warned, his gaze piercing through the darkness. But know this, the house will reveal your nightmares. You may not survive the truths you unearth. Panic surged within Ben. Memories of Sarah flooded his thoughts, twisting and turning until they clung to his throat. We can't do this, he breathed, turning back toward the staircase. But it faded from view, swallowed by a void. No turning back, the man said, eyes reflecting terror and desperation. Once you enter the darkness, it will never let you go. Mark grabbed Ben's arm. We have to, but before he could finish, the cavern trembled. Walls quaked, and the whispers intensified, growing into a cacophony of cries that clawed at their sanity. Shadows whipped through the air, narrowing in on them like a predatory pack. Run! Ben yelled, adrenaline flooding him as they crashed toward the exit. The house had awakened, and it hungered for their souls as they sprinted away. An overwhelming memory tugged at Ben's mind, pulling him back, body betraying him with each step. Sarah's laughter, home, warmth. Light was wrapped in an inescapable darkness. The shadows lunged at them, every whisper morphing into a razor-thin scream. But just when it seemed they might plunge into utter chaos, a doorway appeared, bathed in golden light. "Here, this way," Mark shouted, leading the way as they burst through the threshold. Whatever lay beyond might hold salvation, or it might plunge them deeper into the clutches of despair. Ben clenched his fists, thoughts swirling. "It's not over, is it?" The man's voice echoed behind them, chilling. "You cannot outrun your demons. They will always find you." Beneath the glimmer of light, they paused, hearts racing. But before them, an uncertain fate awaited, teetering on the edge. Was it a way out or another layer of the nightmare? The door creaked ominously. As Ben and Mark surged through the shimmering portal, the warmth of the light enveloped them like a security blanket, momentarily quelling the frantic pounding in their chests. But the moment was fleeting. The doorway slammed shut behind them, darkness clinging to the edges like a hungry beast denied its meal. They stood in a dimly lit room, dusty and stale, with walls adorned by peeling wallpaper that had long forgotten its colors. The air thickened, suffocating in its silence, every shadow seeming to pulse with hidden potential. It felt as if they had wandered into the belly of the beast, where light met gloom. "What now?" Mark whispered, glancing around nervously. His voice echoed back, swallowed by the stillness. Ben's thoughts raced, darting between the voice of the man they had left behind and Sarah's haunting laugh. "We need to find a way out. It can't be just this." He shoved his hands into his pockets, the cold metal of an old key brushing against his fingers. The key. He had found it in the remnants of an old drawer back in the first room. "What is it?" Mark asked, eyeing Ben curiously. "I think I found something." Ben pulled the key from his pocket, letting it dangle in front of them like a lifeline. "Maybe it unlocks something in here." They scanned the room, searching for a lock that could swallow the key and offer a way forward. As they stepped cautiously, the floorboards creaked under their weight, almost like a warning. Every sound amplified the tension, causing their nerves to spike. "Over there." Mark pointed to a wood-paneled door, slightly ajar. A flicker of hope ignited in Ben's chest. He moved towards it, each step feeling heavier than the last. The whispers were gone, replaced by a silence that felt oppressive, suffocating as Ben approached the door. The key rattled in his hand. Fumbling, he inserted it into the lock, his heart racing with anticipation. The lock clicked, sending a shiver of electricity through his body. He turned the handle, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow hall that disappeared into darkness. "Should we?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a murmur, uncertainty gnawing at him. "Let us see what's ahead," Ben replied, trying to muster courage. They stepped inside, the door lingering behind them as it swung shut. The hall was claustrophobic, walls closing in. Low-hanging light bulbs flickered erratically, casting uneasy shadows that danced along the walls. There was something wrong about this place. The air was thick with a scent Ben couldn't place something rotten that clung to his senses and made his stomach churn. "Ellie," the voice echoed again, cutting through the silence with a laced urgency. It was familiar and distant, a drawn-out whisper that echoed painfully. Ben stumbled, recognizing the name from the depths of his past. "Did you hear that?" he said, turning to Mark, who looked ashen. "Hear what?" Mark's eyes darted, scanning the darkness like prey. "I heard someone call for help," Ben insisted, his gut clenching. "It sounded like someone we know." Mark recoiled, shaking his head slowly. "We can't get involved again. This place, it's trying to trick us." But Ben felt drawn, a force compelling him to follow the echoes. "We have to check it out for their sake." Just as he moved to go further, a gust blew through the hall, extinguishing the bulbs, plunging them into darkness. The whispers returned, swirling violently around them, growing loud enough to drown out their thoughts. The air was alive, alive with a surge of being, a vibration that couldn't be ignored. "Ben!" Mark shouted, panic flooding his voice. "What do we do? We need to get out." But as Ben fumbled in the darkness, a bright flash illuminated the hall, revealing faces distorted, twisted, eyes filled with torment. They were trapped just like the man before. "Join us, Ben," they intoned in unison, a chorus of haunted souls. A chill ran down his spine. The images vanished just as quickly as they appeared, leaving Ben and Mark gasping in the now suffocating silence. Ben felt the key slip from his fingers, echoing as it fell to the floor. "What the hell was that?" Mark whispered, his face pale. They're reaching for help," Ben murmured, fear coursing through him as he steadied himself. But before he could make sense of it all, the walls began to shimmer, and the whispers grew into thunderous roars, pushing them toward a choice. Would they confront the echoes of the past, or succumb to the darkness tightening around them? The flickering lights dimmed to black as they stood at the precipice of a dreadful decision. The flickering lights died, and a suffocating darkness enveloped them. Ben's heart raced as he struggled to catch his breath. The air felt charged, electric, as if every atom was alive with unspeakable energy. He could feel Mark's presence beside him, his breathing shallow, his fear palpable. "Ben, we need to move now." Mark's voice was a desperate whisper, barely audible in the thick darkness. The walls appeared to vibrate, throbbing with a life of their own. The whispers rose to a crescendo, each voice overlapping the other, creating a symphony of terror. The feel of cold fingers grazed against Ben's cheek, ice running down his spine. His hand instinctively reached for the wall, seeking stability, but the surface felt slick, like old, rotting flesh. "I don't know where to go," Ben shouted over the cacophony. A sudden gust of wind surged through the hall, blowing debris around them, lifting dust from the floor like phantoms swirling in madness. And then silence fell abruptly. The world stopped, as if holding its breath, leaving them cocooned in a tense void where even sound feared to tread. "Ben, back there," Mark pointed, eyes wide with fright. A thin thread of light emerged from behind an unforgiving corner. It flickered, enticing and repelling at the same time. "What is that?" "I don't know, but we have to take a chance," Ben replied, his voice steadying, trying to mask the terror tightening around his chest. The hall stretched out before them, like a dark mouth about to swallow them whole. With a silent strategy, they moved toward the light, their steps cautious yet urgent. Every footfall echoed like a countdown as they approached the shimmering light. It began to pulse, revealing a doorway with an intricately carved frame. Maybe this leads out, Ben thought, but something nagged at the back of his mind. The warmth radiating from the portal felt too inviting. Could it be another trap waiting to ensnare them? "Do you feel that?" Mark said softly, his eyes darting suspiciously. "It's just a light," Ben started. But the moment he stepped closer, a shriek sliced through the air, sharp and menacing. It felt like ice against his skin. The light flickered again, and Ben caught a glimpse of a figure, just a silhouette against the brilliance. An eerie smile etched across its face. It was the very image of Ellie, her silhouette impossibly twisted. His heart lurched in horror. "Ellie?" he whispered, voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come back." The voice echoed, smooth yet jagged, as if dragging glass across stone. Tears filled Ben's eyes, confusion bubbling within him. This couldn't be happening. Not like this. A growl emanated from beyond the light, low and rumbling. The whispers morphing into cries that pleaded for freedom. "Join us, Ben," echoed the chorus once again, now more frenzied, desperate. He stumbled back, grabbing Mark's arm, pulling him as if the grasp might save them both. "We need to leave, now." But as they turned to run, the corridor contorted around them, stretching unnaturally, pulling them back. The light behind felt magnetic, drawing them toward the false comfort of familiarity. Ben's heart raced, fear clawed at his throat as he fought against the pull. "Mark," he gasped, "we can't let it take us." With a surge of adrenaline, Ben broke into a sprint, dragging his friend with him. The air bit at their lungs, the walls oozing shadows that twitched and slithered closer. As they bolted down the hall, another wave surged behind them. A monstrous roar of wrath and sorrow filled the darkness, as if the very walls were alive in their anguish. "Turn," Ben shouted instinctively, jamming his shoulder against a wall to alter their course. They skidded into another corridor, the unforgiving light from the doorway now a wanton flicker at their backs. But as they ran, the whispers began to morph into laughter high-pitched and cruel, echoing around them, embedding in their minds like shards of glass. Ben's chest tightened with every heartbeat, each thump a reminder of the stakes. Shadows leapt at them, and with each step, the terror grew. How long could they escape? How many echoes would they face before their own voices joined the chorus behind them? Before Ben could answer those haunting questions, they turned a final corner into yet another chamber. The room loomed larger, the air thickening once more. And in the center stood a figure, impossibly twisted, arms outstretched as if waiting. "Welcome home," it whispered, voice like honey laced with poison. A chill ran down Ben's spine. Behind him, laughter morphed back into desperate cries. And then they realized they were not just running from the darkness. They were running toward a choice that could seal their fates. Ben and Mark stood frozen in fear, paralyzed by the uncanny figure before them. It loomed in the dim light, its features obscured, yet they felt its gaze strip them bare, seeking their innermost terrors. Every instinct urged them to flee, yet they were ensnared in the web of shadows surrounding them. "Welcome home," the figure beckoned, its voice haunted and haunting, weaving through the air like a ghostly breeze. The laughter echoing in their minds intensified, morphing into a cacophony of voices, lost souls tugging at the edges of their consciousness. "Ben, we can't let it pull us in," Mark shouted, rallying whatever strength remained. "We need to confront this." Ben's heart raced, his breath quickened, feeling a lump in his throat at the enormity of their situation. But how? He faltered. Every flicker of hope seemed extinguished by the darkness that towered before them like the nightmare itself. Together, Mark's determination resonated like a beacon cutting through the gloom. They had faced the abyss, battled shadows clawing at their sanity. They couldn't turn back now. Gathering all their courage, they stepped forward, locking eyes with the twisted figure. "What are you?" Ben demanded, voice steady, though inside he trembled. "I am the vessel of your fears," it whispered, shadows wrapping tighter around it. "You can run, but the darkness is your truth. Face it or become part of me." In that moment, memories surged like tidal waves, crashing into Ben's mind. Sarah's laughter twisted into an echo of anguish, her eyes pleading for help. Ellie's silhouette haunted him, remnants of a past he wished he could erase but couldn't. "Ben. Look," Mark pointed. A flicker of light far behind the figure pulsed softly, like a distant star. That could be the way out. Ben felt the pull of that flickering light tighten within his chest. Hope surged, pushing back against the darkness. "We have to reach it." Waves of agony swept through them, the laughter morphing into screams that clawed at their souls as they moved. Shadows whipped at them, biting and grasping, determined to swallow them whole. "Hold on," Ben shouted, grabbing Mark's hand tightly as they ran toward the light. With every step toward freedom, the shadows writhed, trying to drag them back, the figure now howling in fury. "You cannot escape. No, we want to be part of your darkness." They yelled in unison, a declaration of defiance. Each word fueled their resolve, igniting bravery within them as the light beckoned, calling for them like a long-lost friend. They dashed forward, pushing past the tendrils of despair wrapping around them. The laughter turned to wailing, its frantic tone igniting the air with urgency. The glow grew brighter, casting away the shadows, inching closer, each flicker bolstering their courage. With one final surge, they lunged for the light, the warmth engulfing them like sunshine breaking through clouds after a storm. "Let us go," Ben shouted as they plunged into the brightness, the shadows shrieking behind them, the figure's form disintegrating into tears of darkness. They emerged in a bright, unfamiliar room, sunlight pouring through an open window, warmth flooding over them, washing away the remnants of fear. Ben and Mark collapsed against each other, gasping for breath, the reality of their escape flooding through them. "I can't believe we made it," Mark whispered, relief flooding his tone. But Ben's heart still thudded heavily, the memories of Sarah and Ellie forever engraved in his mind. "We did," but he trailed off. they're still trapped. The darkness that place continues even if we're free. With a firm grip, Mark nodded, resolve etching itself into his features. We can't forget. We have to find a way to help them. Together, they stood, heartbeats synchronizing with the rhythm of hope, a promise ignited within them to confront whatever darkness still lingered in their town. As they looked out the window, they saw the sun gleaming, casting away shadows for miles. This is just the beginning, Ben murmured, determination alight in his eyes. And so they stepped beyond the threshold, renewed purpose guiding their feet. The shadows may linger, but lights would emerge, and the truths hidden could finally be unearthed. They walked out into a new dawn, determined to uncover truths that could, at last, set the lost souls free, but their journey had just begun. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive story that unfolds. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Ben and Mark's next steps. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.